people, in my experience, when you don't shove it down their throats and instead you say, hey, why don't you come over for dinner and I'm going to make a really good meal for you, and then you impress them with an awesome, flavorful, healthy vegan meal, and then they realize that they feel really good after eating it, and they see like, wow, you have really nice skin, or you're just putting out this like beautiful, vibrant energy, or hey, you've got a really nice ass.
Yo, welcome to the 4th episode of Chickpea Powered, the podcast dedicated to vegan athletes and entrepreneurs who want to change the world. Hope you enjoy this awesome episode of the podcast.
The biggest misunderstanding about people who glow is that they started like everyone else. However, with time and effort, they've developed time-proven lifestyle strategies to sustainable longevity and have been reaping the benefits of glowing skin, limitless energy, and an effortless lean body since. By listening to Chickpea Powered, you hear about their transformations and acquire the guidelines they use instantly, so you too can live without limits. Here's your host, Oliver Zergas.
Here's your host, Oliver Zergas. I've been listening to this voice for the last 5 minutes. I'm kind of getting annoyed. I hope you haven't replayed this episode or this intro part too often because it's kind of getting on my nerves. I'm probably going to redo it, but besides the point, I'm so grateful for you to be here. Guys, vegans, girls, non-vegans. Why did I mix it up? Anyways, I'm so excited because today we have the one and only Samantha Shorkey, who is the first ever vegan world natural WNBF bikini pro athlete. And I think it's just crazy that she's here on the show, able to share with us her journey on veganism, how she does what she does every single day, and how she practices self-love in a world filled with expectation and daily stress levels. And I think she is the model you should follow, or at least aspire to, when it comes to having a healthy body image and just living a fulfilling life. Now, she is also, on a side note, Coach Nina, who is the 2015 bodybuilding.com winner, who beat 435,000 other competitors while she was on a vegan diet, and I think that was crazy for the vegan movement. And it's just so crazy again to have someone who's contributed so much, like all the other interviewees, to the vegan community. Now, please heads up that I may not be the best at podcasting. This is like my 4th, my 5th take, and just so be a bit patient with my skills. When I listen to my voice, I promise you, well, like probably all of you, I cringe a bit, and so I'm just gonna have to take it slowly and just try to slowly but surely enjoy my voice and the interviews I'm producing out there. But I promise you, they're full of great value, and I'm sure that all of you who are into fitness, who are athletes, and are interested in the vegan movement of sustainable living will get tremendous value out of this interview. Now, before I keep rambling on, keep your heads up for the Superfood of the Week break giveaway and enjoy this interview. I like your profile picture. What is it?
Oh, is it me riding a bike with E.T. in the bathroom?
Yeah, I just saw it.
Yeah, people do like that. Do you know that Lululemon has a return policy where, like, even if you buy something 3 or 4 years ago and it starts to, like, wear out, they will replace it free of charge or sew it for you?
First, I'd like to know a little bit more about you because, I saw a few interviews about you and they said, they asked you for sure, like, how was your transformation as a vegan? What led you up to this point right now in your career? But I really want to know something specific about you because you seem like a very confident woman. And with all the success that you've encountered so far, I wanted to ask you if that was always the case. Were you always as confident as you seem now?
Well, that's a good question, and I like that. And it's interesting because I all the time say to my own mother, thank you for letting me grow up in a happy home where I never saw my mother weighing herself or putting herself down, or, obsessing over her food or her body or being on a diet. And so many of these women that I work with, helping them with their training and nutrition, it's eating disorders. It is a fact that they run in families, and so it's this cycle that needs to be broken. And I see it all the time. And I, being a fitness competitor myself, I almost feel as though I was more confident with my appearance before I ever got into competing, which is interesting because I wasn't nearly as fit as I was before I got into competing, yet I had a more positive body image. And then competing, it sort of became this, okay, well, I know once I win a competition and I have the body of my dreams, then I'll be confident and happy and my life will be perfect. And then I won a show. And then it was, okay, well, now I have to win my pro card. I have to be the first ever World Naturals vegan bikini pro, and then I'll be confident, and then my life will be perfect. And then I did that, and nothing changed, and it wasn't until I sort of got out of competing where I did a lot of work on myself and realizing that, my body is not who I am, and I kind of had to go back to how I felt about myself as a little girl, just growing up in this wonderful, happy home, and my mom always being my greatest hero and mentor. And now I try to be that way for my clients and the women that I deal with who struggle with body image and they have daughters. That's the first thing I tell them, you need to love yourself so that you don't pass on this horrible, body image that, your daughters, they will see that and they will live the rest of their lives thinking they need to be on a diet and they're not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but there's definitely many ways that we can, focus on the internal beauty versus external, and happiness and joy comes from the inside, not the external world.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Can you recall the turning point when you really decided, I want to be a professional bodybuilder?
Yeah, so I dated a personal trainer for 4 years. This was back in Vancouver, and it kind of ended really badly. But I had sort of started getting into bodybuilding because we would go to the gym together and he would show me a thing or two. And he ended up, towards the end of our relationship, going to Australia for work. And so he left, and I got this bench, this full weight bench with dumbbells off Craigslist, good old Craigslist. I'm totally aging myself. And I had it in this teeny tiny little bachelor apartment, and every time we would get into a big fight over the phone and this horrible long distance relationship, I'd hang up the phone and I would just put on death metal music and bawl my eyes out and just hammer these weights in this tiny little apartment for hours. And then I kind of became empowered by doing that, to the point that I ended up breaking up with this guy. And then I said, hey, well, maybe I have all this time on my hands. I'm single. Why not enter a fitness competition? But there was not a lot of information available about vegans, and more specifically, female vegan bodybuilders. And bear in mind, this was 6-7 years ago. And so I decided, well, maybe I'll start my own little blog and document my own journey. And I decided to call it Jacked on the Beanstalk, a vegan bodybuilding adventure. And then it all just kind of went from there.
Wow. So why Jacked on the Beanstalk?
Well, I had actually been sponsored by Vega, which was a protein powder company I'm sure everybody knows of. And they were going to support me and my vegan friends driving to my first ever bodybuilding competition. It was a 16-hour drive across northern British Columbia. And we had this little minivan with decals of me holding veggie dumbbells in my hands. And they gave us tons of protein bars and protein powders to give out to people along the way. And so Vega was awesome. They supported us for this little road trip. And we said, well, we need a name. We need to, be able to refer to us as something. And one of my friends said, well, what about Jacked on the Beanstalk? And I actually didn't like it at the time. I was like, no, I think we can do better than that. But everybody I mentioned it to was like, oh, that's great. That's awesome. And it just stuck. And to this day, people say they love that name all the time. And So I'm glad I went with it. And yeah, it was pretty cool. I ended up winning my first that particular competition, and we were interviewed on the news like the whole way up. Wow. And just stopping in all these little middle of nowhere rural towns and hopefully inspiring people and informing them about the world of vegan bodybuilding. And yeah, it's been fun ride ever since.
Wow. And what would you say was your aha moment that really started to make you question your diet?
Like, what made me go vegan?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
you recall, like, any specific moment?
Well, my story is a bit different because I grew up in the middle of the forest. My parents live in a log house on 12 acres of dense forest here in Ontario. And I grew up spending a lot of time in nature, and we had about 40, sometimes 50 deer out back the property, and my mom, being the biggest animal lover on earth, would feed these deer, and they kind of became pets to us. And so every hunting season that would come along, I would get really... Sorry, let me shut off my email so that you're not hearing stuff buzzing. Okay, I'll start back. So every hunting season that would come along every fall, half of the deer would disappear, we'd hear guns firing, and I'd have to see these dead deer slung in the back of pickup trucks, and it was pretty traumatizing for me as a little girl. And so when I was 8 years old, along with my sister, who was a few years older, we said we didn't want to eat animals anymore, because why was it okay to eat cows and chickens and pigs, but the deer, it was heartbreaking for us. And so my mom supported us and said, okay. And at the time, this was like 26 years ago, so there was nowhere near the amount of vegan options, especially in this little tiny village that I grew up in. And so I remember when Eve's Veggie Dogs came out, that was like, whoa, what are these? Mind-blowing. And I was
Do you like them?
I don't particularly eat them very often anymore, but at the time they were quite the treat. And like, I literally remember pizza days where it was just pepperoni pizza at school, and I would be that weird kid like, hey, can I eat your crust? So I was vegetarian from a very young age. And my mom would let me protest every hunting season. I'd go to this busy four-way stop at this intersection where we grew up, and I would have a thermos of hot chocolate, and I'd put on those little, like, reindeer antlers and make my little picket signs. And so I was always known as a little animal rights activist from a very young age. And so I always say I'm an ethical vegan before anything else. The health benefits are just a bonus. And I went vegan in 2011 when I was living in Vancouver, and I was lucky enough to meet this group of girls who were vegan, and they were like, look, you're such an animal lover. You've been vegetarian for your whole life pretty much. You know, do you know what goes on in the dairy industry? And so I started doing research and realized that the dairy industry and the egg industry is probably even worse than the meat industry. And that was it for me. I made the switch and never looked back.
Cool. So you really went for the animal activism more than the health. The health was just a bonus, like you said.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, animals, number one reason for sure.
And then after you went on the diet, did you ever see like a major struggle that really impeded on your improvements, or was it smooth sailing from then on?
I did do a bit of a slow transition, I guess you could say. I thought it was going to be so difficult because, you know, I relied on eating so much dairy and cheese and eggs and you know, even protein powder, you know, things like that. But so what I did was I switched to trying vegan at home, but if I ended up going out for dinner or something and, you know, we ordered a plate of nachos with cheese on it, you know, I would still eat it, things like that. And then, like, I really just had to teach myself how to cook vegan and, you know, realize how versatile things were. And, this was in 2011, so a lot more vegan products were starting to pop up, especially in Vancouver, which is like the vegan heaven capital of Canada. And thankfully, I just had a good resources, right? One of my good friends was basically a vegan chef, so she would cook awesome meals for me all the time, and so I learned a lot from her. But I wouldn't say there was ever any real struggle with the transition because I'd already been vegetarian for so long. But for other people who, have been carnivores their whole life, I always advise them to take baby steps because it can be quite the drastic change to go from eating, copious amounts of dead animals all day for your whole life, and then suddenly you're surviving on beans and tofu and nuts. So
yeah, I definitely see that with my mom and dad, but that's another story. Okay, it's time for a Superfood of the Week break. I hope you're enjoying so far the episode of number 4. And so, listen, I have a giveaway for you, all you athletes out there that are in search of an epic protein powder that will give you the gains you need. Gains. Who wants gains? Of course, everyone wants gains. And so I'm giving away 5 Vega Performance protein powders to 5 lucky winners. Okay, all you have to do is head out to chickpeapower.com, put in your name, your email address, and on February 28th, I will select 5 winners who will each win 1 Vega Performance protein powder of their choice. You do not have to enter your credit card. This is 100% free. This is my gift to the community, and because I know it will bring tremendous value to you. It is not an affiliate link. It is just me sharing with you guys and girls and vegans and non-vegans what I use on a daily basis. Hope you enjoy this offer. Go check it out now at chickpeapowered.com. Link will be in the description of this podcast. So you started your bodybuilding career before you went vegan or around the same time?
I started bodybuilding when I was vegetarian, but I started training to compete in my first competition when I was already vegan. So I went vegan in 2011, and then I did my first competition in 2013, and I started training for it in 2012.
Okay. All right. So you talked a bit about how starting your bodybuilding career really started to make you more aware of your body image and where you wanted to be in terms of results. Did you ever really find a struggle with that, or were you always able to maintain a balance between saying, I love myself, I'm happy with who I am, but I can still improve?
Oh, it's always going to be a struggle. I think competitors don't even realize how much of a struggle it will be for the rest of your life, because when you are training to do a show, if you're doing it properly and you're doing it with the goal of winning, it becomes your entire life. So that meant for many years I was doing anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour of cardio every single morning, and then 1 to 2 hours of weights in the evening. I was living a very regimented life of eating small, bland, boring meals, 6 meals a day, very tiny. You're hungry all the time, and you can't live a normal life. Like, I basically did not have a social life for many, many years because I had decided to make that my priority in life. And when you reach a certain physique and, you lose all this body fat, you gain all of this muscle, it's really hard to not always compare yourself to that, how you looked on that stage. And it's funny because we all know that, you're training for a specific day, and any photo shoot I've done or any show that I've competed in, you're dehydrating, you're not drinking water for days, you're doing all kinds of carb manipulation practices. There's lots of smoke and mirrors that goes into achieving that shredded look. So it's not attainable all the time. It's not sustainable, and it's not even healthy, especially for women, to get their body fat levels that low. But you always still compare yourself to that because in your mind, wow, I achieved that I looked so good, that, when you're a normal quotation marks, normal looking person,
Mm.
you know, you always think, oh, I always refer to myself like, oh, I'm fat jacked. I'm in the off season, you know, because you still have the muscle, but you put on a healthy layer of body fat. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly healthy, but it's definitely a struggle. And that's why I think for me, I decided not to compete anymore because I wanted to get my life back and I wanted to find a healthy balance between still going to the gym almost every day and always eating healthy, clean meals. But, you know, if I want to have a banana, you know, I can have that and not feel guilty and not have to eat asparagus and tofu 6 meals a day, you know?
Yeah, but even a banana is healthy, no?
Yes, but when you're doing prep, you're eating very little sugars, that you're eating very little carbs. So you're basically eating the same bland, boring meals. And that's why a lot of competitors, when the show ends, they struggle with binge eating disorder and this vicious cycle of binging and restricting because you're so focused on this one day and you're miserable. You're eating these horrible, boring meals and gagging down, you know, steamed asparagus spears all day long. Like you're literally eating asparagus for breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
And then the show ends and suddenly you're like, oh my God, I want to eat all the things that I haven't been able to eat for so long. And then what happens? Your body is used to being in this starvation mode. And then all of a sudden you eat all these high caloric, sugary, fatty, delicious foods. And then everyone puts on weight, and then it creates this really vicious cycle of, oh God, I put on the weight, now I have to get back on the diet, now I'm going to restrict, and then, you know, well, wait, there's not a show, I like food, and it's just, and I've seen it time and time again because I train a lot of other competitors, so it's a very slippery slope, and it's very important that you find a coach who understands this and can really walk you through the mental part of a prep. And that's why I always call myself the mindful meathead, because so much of this whole fitness coaching that I do, it's getting people in the right mindset more than anything.
And I can definitely relate to that with the binge eating after a long prep. Not necessarily a prep, but let's say you want to lose a bit of weight. I can definitely relate to that. And what do you do? Let's say you have a little slip up. What is your routine after that?
Well, I don't really consider how I eat having slip-ups anymore because I always eat healthy foods, but I don't weigh my food right now. You know, I know what is an appropriate portion based on, you know, my body and my goals, and I don't ever tell myself that, you know, you can't have these and these are good foods and these are bad foods. And I think that's the mentality that people really need to move away from, you know, instead of like, cake is bad, carrots are good. You know, it's figuring out that, hey, you can have a little bit of cake and you can have some carrots and it's okay. It's just finding, what I always say is it's finding balance between structured eating and listening to your own body, because your body never wants you to be fat or underweight. Your body wants you to be a healthy weight. It's just we need to figure out, you know, how to eat to fuel our activity level and remove the emotions attached to it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so removing more of the emotions and just enjoying it.
Yeah, and I should
not putting limitations.
Yes, and to answer your question, I realize I went off on an unrelated tangent there, but to answer your question, so often when my clients message me and say, oh, here's a perfect example. Just last week, one of my clients emailed me saying, well, I bought a big bag of Halloween candy for my kids, and I was planning on surprising them, you know, putting it in their lunches, and that night I woke up at midnight, went down in the kitchen and ate half the bag, then went back to bed, then woke up again at 2 a.m, went back downstairs, ate the rest of the bag, and now I feel like, you know, a disgusting piece of crap, and what is wrong with me? And so this is something that happens a lot, I would say, with people. And so the first thing that I always advise them on is, okay, it happened. accept it, have a big glass of water and, start the next day fresh, and then really ask yourself, what was I actually looking for? It wasn't the candy. There's something else. There's an underlying issue that is going on in order to make you, like, why would you even buy the candy? Obviously, you knew that was a possibility of going to happen, so why was that candy even in the house? So there's a lot of asking yourself the why behind your choices, and again, it all boils down to the emotional attachment to doing those things, and not blaming the food, not blaming yourself, accepting it, and really asking yourself why that happened, and then not pulling one of these, okay, well, that happened, so now I'm going to eat like crap for the next 24 hours, and then I'm right back on that diet. And I always use the analogy, if you drop your cell phone, you're not going to smash it into a million pieces, right? So if you end up eating, off plan or eating something bad, why would you ruin it by continuing the binge? Like, it happened, all right, cool. Use those calories to go fuel a heavy-ass leg day and get right back on the healthy train, right after. And digestive enzymes are your best friend, too. So I always say if you are going to do a cheat meal, and for the record, I do tell my clients that they get a weekly treat meal, as I call it. So it gives them something to look forward to, and it's a planned meal where they can eat whatever they want. I often will recommend doing it at night so that it doesn't turn into a whole cheat day, and then take their digestive enzymes, which will help their body to metabolize the fats and the carbs, and then, do a nice heavy leg day the next day so that you're really using those extra calories to fuel your workout, and move on.
I really like that analogy of dropping your cell phone and why would you throw it back again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and also just bringing that experience into a positive one by fueling your workout after that. So, yeah.
And there are actually a lot of benefits to having planned cheat meals. When you're, like, you've probably heard of people that do, carb cycling, and it's also good for your metabolism if you are eating very clean, and then suddenly you give yourself a healthy dose of fats, and the sodium will help fill up your muscles, and for your mental sanity, having a planned cheat meal is good for you, like, again, if you're on a really restrictive diet all the time, then eventually you are going to snap and fall off the wagon, and then you end up beating yourself up about it, because it usually isn't just one little cheat meal. It does turn into, a solid couple days of just gorging on everything in sight, and then we go back to that vicious binging and restricting cycle.
But then how do you separate between, say, oh, it's okay to have one cheat meal and I should really get my stuff together and buckle up? Say, for example, I know one of my objectives is to get to 160 pounds, and right now I'm at 175 pounds, but how do I know whether 160 is really realistic? How do I get that target goal without going too far and slipping up?
So I would say that, first you need to be realistic with what your ideal weight is for your particular body. Like, you would not believe how many women send me photos of, okay, so I want this girl's butt and this girl's stomach, and it's like, okay, you are not that girl. You have a very different body composition than these particular women, and depending what body type you are, you cannot change the shape of a muscle, like, you can change the size of it, but you cannot change, what you're genetically given in terms of changing the shape of a muscle. So I would say, was there ever a point, I know you're pretty young already, but was there, a time in high school where you were really lean and you liked that particular leanness and that's kind of what you want to go back to? Or, have you when was the last time you were 160 pounds, I guess would be the question. And because a lot of these people get stuck in this mentality of, oh, I want to weigh what I weighed in high school, but I'm 45 now and I've had 3 kids, and, you know, and it's, okay, well, things do change over time, you know, and, you know, unfortunately, I always tell them I don't have a time machine in my coaching package. So I think it's finding a realistic, you know, place, and maybe not making it quite so large of a jump. If you're 175 now, I'd say let's strive to get you at, you know, first 170, and then, you know, slow, small incremental goals and changes over time, and you probably could get down to 160. But if you're planning to put on muscle, then, you know, you might not be able to get that low if you're still continuing to build muscle. I don't know. Are you just wanting to be really lean, or?
Yeah, I guess it's getting really lean just to get more the satisfaction of saying I did it, you know?
Right. And were you ever 160?
I was 166 at my lowest.
Okay.
So I really don't know. I was 166. I had my abs showing. But like you said, was I really happy with where I was? Did I really feel happy inside of me? Personally, no. I was doing a lot of intermittent fasting that really helped me. Mm-hmm. But it was back in high school, like 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
And I know restricting my calories was a big pressure on me.
Right.
And right now I can't do it anymore, you know?
Right. So there's probably your answer. So I'd say it's probably more realistic to make 165 your goal for now, you know, and maybe just try, you know, journaling what you're eating. I know a lot of people do like fasting, and you know, it works, especially for men. I think men have better results with the fasting, but some people like myself, I can't stand it. I can't function. I have no brain power when I'm fasting, because all I'm thinking about is eating, and working from home, that's just a disaster.
Yeah, I get that. But then on the theme of body image, because you seem to being immersed in like the bodybuilding industry where body image takes a big place, you seem to still have mastered self-love. And I wanted to ask you, how do you practice it? How do you practice self-love? Is it in your morning routine? Is it at night? How do you do it?
Well, I do a lot of different things. So I'm very much about having a solid morning routine. So I always call myself a vegan hippie meathead. And I wake up every single morning and I drink a big glass of lemon chlorophyll water. And then I make a cup of coffee. And while I'm drinking my coffee, I do some meditation. And I like the Insight Timer app, which is free. And
no way.
Do you use that too?
Yeah, same thing.
Nice. Yeah, they have so many good little quick 10-minute guided meditations. So I listen to a lot of those. And then I also use, and I think Tim Ferriss actually is an advocate for this, the 5-minute journal.
Oh, yeah, I do that too.
Oh, awesome.
I learned it from him, yeah.
See, and you know what? I love to hear that you are as young as you are and you're doing all of these awesome practices. And I'm telling you, when you are in your 30s, you will be so glad that you did all of these things, for sure. And I wish I'd been doing them when I was your age, definitely. But yeah, and I do a lot of gratitude practices, and having my podcast definitely has been awesome for me, because I always say, like, the things that if you really want to learn something, you have to teach it. And so that's why when I speak at a lot of these vegan expos, I purposely will choose topics that I want to learn more about. And same with my podcast. All the episode topics that I cover are things that I want to become better at and I want to master. And by teaching them to other people, it makes me more of a master of them. And a big motto of mine is self-discovery, not self-improvement. So, you know, just always being really present and, you know, always trying to change those subconscious and unconscious beliefs that all of us have, that truly keep us from living the life that we're born to live. And I know that sounds so cheesy, but 90% of our thoughts are negative. And I think that is so messed up.
No way.
Yeah, I've heard that. And so if we can just, even if we don't believe it, but we force ourselves to try to be conscious of every time a negative thought comes into our mind, changing that into something positive. And so I will do things like dry brush my skin in the mornings if I'm not in a rush to get anywhere, and while I'm dry brushing my skin or exfoliating, I will say things that I love about my body, and even if I don't really believe it, there's always something that you can say, yeah, you know what, I do like my butt, or I do have pretty nice boobs, or whatever it is, right? And like all those things, I swear they make such a difference. And not following people on social media who make you feel bad about yourself. Like, I actually follow very few fitness people. Why? Because I don't want to see some girl's perfect ass and then it makes me think, oh, I should go to the gym and go do 1,000 squats. No, I follow people that I genuinely would be friends with in real life, not people that make me feel bad about myself. And yeah, I think just doing little things like that definitely helps to build confidence and yeah, just live a happier life where you're not down on yourself, and that energy, it really does come out to the world. Like, if you're living in this negative, I hate myself, I hate my body mentality, like, that is the energy that you're putting out into the world. And I swear, like, when I'm even at my thickest, because I do have this inner self-love and inner confidence, guys sense that, and I feel like I get hit on way more at a bigger size than when I'm shredded to the bone. So
yeah, it really helps to hear that from you, because like you said, right now I'm doing all these little tricks of self-love or just self-improvement, and I know a lot of my friends are doing so too, but we're not really seeing the long-term benefits, and we're often asking ourselves, like, hey, is it really worth it? Should I just stop and just enjoy the moment and stop rushing myself to do meditation in the morning at 5 a.m., 6 a.m.? But then it really helps to hear it from you to really take a perspective on things.
Well, and I think you just said it, like, really embracing the moment and just being present, and that is a big part of it, and not getting stuck in, the past or trying to foresee the future, and like, I always just try to see, I know this sounds cheesy again, but seeing the beauty in everything and everywhere I go and everyone I'm with, and even if somebody pisses me off, like, just trying to catch myself and say, okay, well, that person pissed me off, but I had a really good friggin' cup of coffee at Starbucks, or whatever it is, and things like the 5-minute journal, I feel like really help with that. I kind of just randomly thought of this too, but when you were saying with your goal of trying to reach a certain weight, or you and your friends, like, all right, well, we're meditating, but like, shit's not happening. I always say, whatever goal you are pursuing, like, do not be attached to any sort of outcome, like high involvement and high intention, but low attachment. And that, for me, has and for any of my clients, like, instead of being like, I must lose 15 pounds by July or whatever, because then you're setting yourself up for failure if you don't hit that target. So get rid of the actual target and have very low attachment to it, and instead just, like, try to be highly involved and have the high intention of accomplishing that goal, but do not attach yourself to any sort of outcome. And that means not attaching your state of mind or your mood to the outcome either.
I really like that high intention, high intensity but low attachment.
Yeah, high
Is that what you
involvement, high intention, but low attachment. Because we're never really actually chasing the outcome anyways, right? But it's rather the feeling we think we're going to get from that outcome. And that's what I always use the example of me competing, right? I thought that once I get my pro card, well, then every guy will want me and I will be perfect and I will have, you know, the confidence and be the hottest chick ever. And did anything change? No, I have a $5 plastic trophy in my bedroom and that's it. Right?
Yeah. And I know on the theme of like getting in fast and really wanting to see the results now, I know a lot of young vegans that have just been starting out, or whether they've been on the diet for 4 years now, they really want to start having an impact on the world around them, right? They want to be part of this big vegan movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this puts a lot of pressure on us, me for sure, on saying like, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm sure I'm being vegan, I'm helping the planet, but how can I really start spreading that to other people? How can I really build a community that will inspire other people?
Ooh, I like this question. So one of my favorite mottos is I always tell people I don't preach, I inspire. And that's why bodybuilding has been an amazing platform for me to inspire others. And that's why I always wear my Jacked on the Beanstalk gear to work out in, or I'll wear other vegan brands of clothing so people know, hey, that chick who's lifting heavier than I can, like, she's obviously vegan. And then it always sparks conversations, and you know, I love hearing people say, wow, you're vegan? Wow, you don't look vegan, and just breaking these stereotypes that exist about all vegans being scrawny and malnourished. And I think it's interesting because a lot of the animal activists out there, I think there's a time and a place for all forms of activism, but sometimes it can have the wrong effect on others. And I've seen it for myself. I've participated in outreach events where, you know, we've got the bullhorns and we're screaming in people's faces about, you know, oh, you're all pieces of crap, and you know, and there's something that's called activist burnout, where people that do these all the time, they kind of become hardened and just kind of hate the world, and I think that can be not the best way to spread the good message, you know, and I think people, in my experience, when you don't shove it down their throats and instead, you know, you say, hey, why don't you come over for dinner and I'm going to make a really good meal for you. And then you impress them with an awesome, flavorful, healthy vegan meal. And then they realize that they feel really good after eating it. And, you know, they see like, wow, you have really nice skin, or, you know, you're just putting out this like beautiful, vibrant energy. And, or, hey, you've got a really nice ass, like whatever it is, you know, there's other ways to promote the message and you know, just making people aware. But I love that my form of activism is not quite as forceful, and in my experience, it definitely inspires people. Like for instance, when I coached the winner of bodybuilding.com's $200,000 transformation challenge in 2015, and that was huge for me and the vegan movement. And she went from meat eater to vegan in 12 weeks and beat out 345,000 people worldwide. And I'm telling you, like, that was one of the most joyous moments of my life, to be able to say, like, yeah, look, a vegan did this. This is what is possible on a vegan diet. And, you know, like, obviously I know, you know, everybody's going to have different ways of spreading the message, but for me, that's my purpose and mission in life. And you know, I think everybody's got to figure out, you know, what their mission and purpose is. And, you know, for you, maybe it is this podcast and you know, getting the younger generation informed about veganism and changing those stereotypes that, you know, all the bros out there, you know, think like, oh, if I eat soy, I'm going to grow boobs or whatever, you know, like make that your mission and just figure out what it is, because we're all put on this earth for something, and we all have a mission and a purpose, and, you know, we just got to figure out what it is and full speed ahead.
So really leading by example, being the change you want to see.
Yeah, exactly. A little Gandhi quote there.
I didn't even know who said it. I just
remember. Isn't it Gandhi? Be the change you want to see in the world, or
maybe it's Gandhi. Is that what you would tell your younger self? Is there like something specific you would, now looking back, tell your 20-year-old self, your 22-year-old self to do something differently?
Yes, it would probably be stop wasting your energy on trying to impress other people, and realize that you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. So stop wasting it smoking pot and partying your face off every weekend, and you know, and appreciate the family that you have, and don't waste your life, and use your energy to develop yourself and help others, and be kind towards others, and not be such a judgmental asshole.
I like that. And so I really love what you said so far, and I want to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
So, what is one thing you believe in that no one else does?
What is one thing I believe in that no one else does?
Or that the majority doesn't know? I know it's a tricky question.
Yeah.
If you don't have it.
I would say just that self-worth is not tied to net worth. And I've always said that I have had horseshoes up my ass when it comes to, you know, winning my first competition, and then winning my pro card 1 year later, and then having a client win bodybuilding.com's big challenge. And I have never, ever been concerned about money, ever. And yet I've always had enough money to do whatever I want and to pursue my passions. And so just truly, and I guess, a lot of people do feel this way, but not giving a crap about money as long as you're doing what you love. And I like that. Self-worth is not tied to your net worth.
Self-worth is not tied to your net worth.
Yeah.
Samantha. Nice. I like it. I love it. And so how can my followers connect with your network?
So my website is jackedonthebeanstalk.com, and you can hit me up on Instagram under Sam Shorkey. And then I also have a podcast, Jacked on the Beanstalk, the podcast. And I'm all over every social media platform there is. And of course, if anyone is looking for customized one-on-one vegan training and nutrition coaching, Sam at jackedonthebeanstalk.com.
Great. Yay, we did it.
Woohoo! Thank you.
Hey, listen, if you made it this far, I just want to thank you so much for being part of this chickpea-powered community. And as Samantha Shorkey said, I will link all her links down in the description down below if you are looking for an awesome meal plan, an awesome training program, and an awesome coach to work with you on your fitness goals. She is the one you should go to. Now, without further ado, I want to send you those amazing vibes. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing an amazing job. Just improving day by day, doing your thing. Now, Remember, head out to cheapypower.com if you want to try to win a Liga Performance protein powder. Have a great day.